The airport was unusually quiet that winter morning. Snowflakes danced outside the giant glass windows, soft and silent, as planes glided through the fog. Inside, people rushed past each other, voices echoing, suitcases rolling, and lives crossing paths without knowing the stories behind the faces. But amidst all the motion, one man stood still, a tall, well-dressed figure in a black coat and gray scarf, holding a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. His name was Ethan Gray, a self-made millionaire, owner of Gray Tech Industries, and a man known for his discipline and distance. But that morning, something in him shifted the moment he saw her, the woman asleep on the bench, holding two babies wrapped in a soft gray blanket. At first, he didn't believe his eyes. Could it really be her? His former maid, Lena, the quiet, gentle woman who had once cared for his mansion, his home, and for him. It had been 4 years since she left without a word, leaving behind only a resignation note and the faint scent of lavender. He had searched, not that he'd ever admit it, but no one knew where she went. And now, here she was, right before him, asleep in the airport with 2 infants. His heart, usually so guarded, skipped a beat. Ethan's mind raced back to the days when Lena first entered his life. She was 24, shy, and desperate for work. He had barely noticed her at first, caught up in meetings, business trips, and boardrooms. But there was something about her, her quiet strength, the way she smiled even when exhausted, and how she took care of everything without complaint. Over time, their small exchanges had become longer conversations. She'd bring him tea late at night when he worked too late, sometimes leaving a small note that said, "Don't forget to rest." He never told her how much that meant to him. But just as he began to realize those feelings, she was gone. No warning. No goodbye. Just silence. And now, there she was. He approached slowly, his footsteps echoing on the cold tiles. She looked thinner, paler, but still carried that soft grace that once filled his mansion with warmth. The twins, identical, perhaps 6 months old, were sleeping soundly, their tiny chests rising and falling against her. Something in Ethan's chest tightened. He crouched beside her, carefully not to wake the babies, and whispered, "Lena." Her eyes fluttered open. Confusion crossed her face, then shock. "Ethan." Her voice trembled. He smiled faintly, though his heart pounded. "I thought I'd lost you." Lena sat up, clutching the babies protectively. "What are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same thing," he said softly. "Last time I saw you, you disappeared." Her eyes filled with pain. "I had to." Ethan studied her face. "Had to?" "You left everything behind. No message, no explanation. Do you know what that did to me?" Lena looked away. "I couldn't stay, Ethan. Not after what happened." "What happened?" he asked, his tone sharper now. She hesitated, then sighed, her voice cracking. "You wouldn't have believed me then. And maybe you still won't now." The babies stirred. She gently rocked them back to sleep. Ethan's gaze softened again, watching her every move. He noticed how natural she looked, how motherly, how gentle. But something inside him whispered, those children, could they? No. He shook the thought away. Impossible. "Lena," he said, more quietly this time. "Whose children are they?" Her eyes met his, full of unspoken truth. "Mine," she said simply. He nodded slowly, though his throat felt tight. "And their father?" She hesitated again, too long. And in that pause, Ethan felt his world tilt. "Lena," he whispered, "are they mine?" Tears welled in her eyes before she could answer. "Ethan, please. Don't make this harder than it already is." He stepped back, his pulse hammering in his ears. "You left because of this?" She nodded weakly. "I couldn't let them grow up in your world, in that mansion, surrounded by people who'd never accept me, or them. You were about to get engaged to someone else. Remember? The newspapers called her your perfect match. I was just your maid, Ethan. I didn't belong there." Ethan's voice broke. "You think I would have cared about any of that?" "Lena, I..." She cut him off, shaking her head. "You were building an empire. I couldn't be the woman who ruined that." He stared at her, the woman he once thought he'd forgotten, the woman who had haunted every lonely night since. All those years of work, of success, of money, and yet none of it filled the emptiness she left behind. For a long moment, neither spoke. The airport buzzed around them, announcements, footsteps, distant chatter, but in that space, it felt like time stood still. Then one of the twins stirred, opening his tiny eyes, looking up at Ethan with the same piercing blue as his own. Ethan froze. Every doubt, every question vanished. His voice trembled. "He has my eyes." Lena said nothing, tears silently running down her cheeks. Ethan knelt before them. "Lena, why didn't you tell me?" "Because you were happy," she whispered. "Or at least, you seemed to be. And I didn't want to take that away. I thought I was doing the right thing." He closed his eyes. "The right thing would have been telling me the truth. You robbed me of years I could have spent with them, with you." Her voice shook. "And what would have happened, Ethan? You'd have given up your company, your life, your dreams." He looked at her with intensity. "Dreams mean nothing if you have no one to share them with." For the first time, Lena looked at him not as her former boss, not as a millionaire, but as a man broken by what he'd lost. "I never stopped thinking about you," Ethan continued, his voice low. "Every day, every meeting, every night when I came home to that empty house. I kept wondering why you left. I thought I'd done something wrong. I tried to move on, but I couldn't." Lena bit her lip. "Ethan." He took a deep breath, glancing at the twins. "Let me be part of their lives. I don't care how long it's been or what it costs. Just, don't shut me out again." Lena's tears fell freely now. "I don't know if I can. I don't even know where I belong anymore. I've been doing this alone for so long." "Then stop doing it alone," he said gently. "Let me help. Not because I'm rich, not because I feel guilty, but because I love you, Lena. I always did." She stared at him in disbelief. "You loved me." He smiled faintly. "You were the only person who ever saw me, not the money, not the name. Just Ethan." The silence that followed was heavy, filled with all the words they'd left unsaid for years. Then, one of the babies reached out a tiny hand toward Ethan's scarf, gripping it. Ethan laughed softly, a sound Lena hadn't heard in years. "He likes me," Ethan said with a shaky smile. Lena couldn't help but smile too. Maybe he knows. For the first time in years, warmth filled Ethan's chest. The pain, the regret, the loneliness, all of it seemed to fade in that small moment. He looked at Lena, then at the twins. "Come home," he whispered. "All of you. Please." Lena hesitated, torn between fear and hope. "And if it doesn't work?" He smiled gently. "Then at least we'll know we tried. But I can promise you this, I'll never let you disappear again." Snow began to fall harder outside, soft flakes clinging to the glass as the sunlight broke through the clouds. Lena looked at him for a long time, then nodded slowly. "Okay." Ethan felt something deep inside him finally settle, a peace he hadn't known in years. He helped her stand, cradled one of the babies in his arms for the first time, and together, they walked toward the gate. The announcer's voice echoed over the loudspeaker, "Flight 712 boarding now." As they moved through the crowd, Ethan turned to Lena. "You know, I used to think success was about money, about how much you could own. But it's not. It's about who waits for you when you have nothing left." She smiled softly, tears glistening in her eyes. And who would have thought, the millionaire finally learned the value of love. Ethan chuckled. "Guess I needed my maid to teach me that." They shared a quiet laugh, their eyes meeting in that way that said everything words couldn't. The twins stirred softly between them, as if sensing the warmth that had returned. And as they disappeared down the corridor, hand in hand, the cold airport seemed to glow a little warmer, as if life itself was giving them a second chance. Sometimes, the people we lose are the very ones who were meant to save us. Success means nothing without love, and true wealth is found not in the numbers in your account, but in the hearts that wait for you when the world forgets your name. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories that remind us, love always finds its way back.